Hi and welcome to Murdoch's Music Minute Triple M, and welcome to my indie corner, which is the corner of my couch from which I talk about the more alternative or independent artists in my collection. Today, a band that can be maybe considered rather alternative mainstream or a commercially successful band, but with more alternative roots from Wales, the Stereophonics. And I've picked an album today which is not featured on my Getting Into Stereophonics list. Maybe you've come across that video that I did a few weeks ago. Also, not maybe the biggest, most iconic album, but an album I feel like talking about, at least today. Keep the Village Alive from 2015. Sounds like a community slogan to actually really keep any village alive. I myself, I've basically always lived and have grown up in urban areas, so I couldn't claim to be a country boy. My parents come from small towns, from villages. Also, my wife grew up in a village. And the Stereophonics, at least their founding members, definitely come from a village. And how they started and then moved out to conquer the big world of rock music until the release of this album will now be presented in a small clip show, and then I'll be back with the review and my attempt to keep the village alive. This is a village in Wales, spelled like this, but pronounced something like Cwmaman. In the mid-80s, Kelly Jones and Stuart Cable, who lived in the same street, formed their first band together with other local boys. But this project soon fell apart again, and Jones and Cable went their separate ways, playing in various bands. It was only a few years later that the two of them got together again, agreeing to give their band project another go. They decided to try their own material, and Jones, as the singer and guitar player, started writing his own songs. After longtime friend Richard Jones joined as bass player, the band for a while looked for a second guitarist, but finally decided to continue as a trio. Inspired by blues rock, classic 70s hard rock, and grunge bands, they appeared under the name Tragic Love Company. After appearing as a support band in London, they met two producers who were interested in recording a demo with the group. Afterwards, they were invited to be part of a series of concerts in South Wales. The organizer, however, loved their music but didn't like the band name. It was drummer Stuart Cable who came up with the name Stereophonics, a term he had read on an old gramophone. During the early 90s, the band gained a reputation as local heroes in the live circuit, and finally in 1996 signed with the new label V2. Their debut album from 1997, Word Gets Around, immediately reached number 6 in the UK albums chart. Praised for both its rock punch and the observant lyrics about life in a small town, the album gained critical attention, and Stereophonics received a Brit Award for Best New Group in 1998. Backed by the energetic singles The Bartender and the Thief and Just Looking, their follow-up album, Performance and Cocktails, even went to number 1 in the UK charts. Riding on a wave of success, the band went on to tour Europe, Australia, and the USA. Their third album should be their definite breakthrough into the mainstream. Released in 2001, Just Enough Education to Perform also reached number 1 in the UK, making it the 4th biggest selling album in the United Kingdom in the year 2001. Especially frontman Kelly Jones, with his characteristic voice and good looks, became the focus of attention and at one point even had to turn down an offer to appear in the Playgirl magazine. Instead, Stereophonics rather concentrated on recording their 4th album, which was released in 2003. You Got to Go There to Come Back was mostly recorded live in the studio to capture a rather raw, spontaneous live feel. Kelly Jones produced the album himself, which once more topped the UK album charts. The album's overall sound was very strongly influenced by 1970s rock and blues rock bands. The album also featured one of their biggest hit singles, the more laid-back Maybe Tomorrow. But relationships within the band soured during that time. Shortly after the album's release, drummer Stuart Cable was sacked from the band. Apparently, he had lost interest in the group, missed rehearsals, and didn't feel like the Stereophonics would ever improve. Though he was a founding member of the band, he was eventually replaced by new drummer Javier Weyler. The band itself was at a new height of popularity now. And they could even top that with the release of their 5th studio album, Language, Sex, Violence, Other, in 2005. The album included the song Dakota, which would become the first number 1 hit in the UK. And the band remained a stable factor in both the UK indie but also mainstream scene. In 2007, they released their album Pull the Pin, but despite reaching yet again the number 1 spot in the UK album charts, the band also started to receive negative criticism regarding both the inspiration of the music as well as Kelly Jones's lyrics. On their 7th album from 2009, Keep Calm and Carry On, Stereophonics appeared as a quartet, adding Adam Zindani as a second guitarist. In 2010, their first drummer, Stuart Cable, was found dead in his home. Maybe also influenced by this tragedy, the band took a longer break and only returned in 2013 with their next album, Graffiti on the Train. By this time, they also had changed their drummer after Javier Weyler had left the band to pursue other projects. Graffiti on the Train featured a less commercial sound for the band and was the first album to be released on their own Stylus Records label. Around 30 songs came out of the sessions for this album, and for a while the band even thought about releasing an album trilogy, but finally decided against that idea. However, the follow-up to Graffiti on the Train is considered the more or less unofficial second part.
Yeah, you believe you're the king of the jungle. You got the t-shirt, do you know how the song goes?
Sort of originally intended as part 2 of Graffiti on the Train, we get Keep the Village Alive, but only in 2015, so there was quite a gap between the previous album and this one. It doesn't have the most striking cover artwork. It's pretty gray and gray. This is the backside with simply the 10 tracks listed. We've got a bit of a gatefold, which, however, sticks to that very rudimentary drawings or, artwork. Maybe this is what it looked like to grow up in a Welsh village or small town. And the album itself, here the jacket has got the lyrics to all of the songs, plus some credits. It was released on Stylus Records in 2015, as mentioned. The band at this point consisted of Kelly Jones, of course, guitars, a bit of piano, vocals, also the main songwriter and lyricist. Richard Jones, bass guitar, so the two founding members. Then Adam Sindani, who had joined the band a couple of years before as a second guitarist. And for the first time, their new drummer, Jamie Morrison. So Stereophonics here were a quartet and no longer a power trio. 10 tracks, not an overtly long record, but I think that's a good thing in this case. It's not over ambitious, it doesn't outstay its welcome, and it doesn't mean to make a big artistic statement. So let's get into the 10 tracks and my opinions of this album overall. And we jump right into this album with C'est la vie, which also was the first single released shortly before this album officially came out, if I'm not mistaken. And yeah, here we get a return of the classic Stereophonics sound. It's a no-nonsense, straightforward, up-tempo rock song with a bit of grit to it. Kelly Jones's voice is back to his raspy best. And yeah, it's a fun rock song. C'est la vie, not too deep a message. To be honest, the lyrics are not the most important element of Stereophonics, at least not since their third or fourth album. But here the music and the lyrics really form a perfect unit. This seems to be a song about carefree adolescence in a small town or maybe in a village, and you go to parties or you go to town and you come back on the train. Love affairs that don't seem to be too serious. And at the same time, it all also feels a bit shabby and frustrating. It's a great song to blast in a pub, I would guess. And it's the most energetic the Stereophonics had sounded for a long time. If you like the sound of Stereophonics, this is a great single and a great way to start the album.
In a bottle, but we ain't sailing nowhere. Rip up the cork, get the wind into our hair. Get off the train in the rain at the station. Knock back a drink, cause we think the boat's sinking. Hell and heaven, they can wait for you. So go and do all the things that you want to do. So set me free, c'est la vie.
The second song on Keep the Village Alive is called White Lies. It was also released as a single, the fourth single taken from this album. This is a more piano-driven song, or at least the piano provides a kind of hook line that keeps repeating in the background. Also sounds a bit slicker overall. So this is a kind of typical Stereophonics pop rock track, a style that they established with their fifth album. It's all a bit more polished. It's not so edgy. Not so much a rock sound. Very radio friendly, and to some extent probably also inspired by bands like Coldplay. But still, when Stereophonics do this kind of style, it sounds a bit earthier than aforementioned band Coldplay. The song is about, yes, white lies, betrayal, being dishonest maybe in a relationship. In terms of lyrics, probably even one of the deeper tracks on this album. Yeah, it's a solid, as mentioned, pop rock alternative mainstream song. Not necessarily my absolute favorite from this album, but it keeps the level of energy or of quality quite intact after this great opening track here. Track number 3 is called Little Sister, returns more to the grittier rock sound, a bit of a maybe blues influence, at least a mild bluesy influence here. This is a track that seems to harken back a little bit to the style Stereophonics had on the 4th album, so a bit more 70s rock inspired. Has a nice mid-tempo groove, and in comparison to a lot of the stuff that Stereophonics had released after their 5th or 4th album, this again sounds a little bit heavier, at least as mentioned comparatively. The lyrics here are really nothing to write home about. Even though the song is called Sing Little Sister, the lyrics rather seem to indicate a more erotic relationship between the lyrical I and the little sister. I'm not really sure what this alludes to, or whether there is actually a reference, a deeper background to the song lyrics. However, I like Stereophonics doing this kind of no-brainer rock sound.
You got to sing, little sister, so come on next to me. You got to dance, little sister, so come on next to me. You got to sing, little sister, so come on next to me. You got to scream.
Then we get to a song called I Wanna Get Lost With You. It was also released as a single, and I believe it did fairly well in the UK, at least for this stage in the band's career. I mean, they are not a fresh, new, young band. This is another solid track in the typical Stereophonics pop rock style. It's quite catchy, even though I would argue it's not the most memorable single. A song about, wanting to get lost with somebody, focusing on just this one person, or to describe it in a different way, I would say this is the description of being completely absorbed with a person that one has fallen in love with. However, as is so often the case, at least on this album, it's not the easiest relationship, because in the lyrics, for example, it says, I know we did some wrong. You told me that night when I came to you that you were with someone. It got messed up with so much stuff like living a loaded gun. So there's quite a bit of romance on this album, with obstacles or complicated situations. Side A ends with Song for the Summer, which was also released as a single. So, well, arguably the album seems to be a bit front-loaded, because most of the singles come from the first half of this album. And this is a rather lush song, mostly due to a string ensemble or orchestral flourishes in the background that are used very much to the benefit of the song. I would say. Nice melody, quite catchy in a quick waltz tempo, so 6/8, I guess. Kelly Jones does a wonderful vocal performance here. It's a rather simplistic song, but as mentioned, I think the arrangement is what makes the song actually bigger than it is. And yeah, this is a quite nice ending to the first half of the album. Song for the summer, a song about taking a step back, clearing one's head, or maybe coming to one's senses, and taking some time out, maybe even from yourself or from your thoughts. Quite an interesting lyrical content, actually.
Song for the summer, song for the rain. Get a little closer to see clear again. Song for tomorrow, song for today. Come a little closer to feel right again.
Let's see if after this really pleasant track, the band also manages to keep the village alive on side 2 of the album. And keeping villages alive these days really is not always easy, at least in the country where I live in Austria. A lot of the smaller places, the villages really are losing population. The shops are closing down. So very often even the local inns are disappearing, and of course younger people are drawn to the cities or moving abroad. And to get into a little bit of my viewers' demographics, I mean, the 3 of you who are watching this, maybe also let me know, do you live in a city, in an urban place, or are you actually from the countryside, and maybe you know a little bit about what communities do to keep their villages alive. But back to the music now. We continue on side 2 with the track Fight or Flight, and this is one of those more minimalist, rather repetitive songs. Stereophonics usually have 1 or 2 of those on their albums, and I have to say, while not something unpleasant or something really bad in terms of music, these are for me very often rather forgettable filler tracks. And Fight or Flight is also one of those. This is more about, locking into a groove and singing, in this case, also extremely repetitive lyrics over a kind of repetitive melodic pattern. So, yeah, maybe not the best way to start the second side of an album. It's, by the way, also another track that is more focusing on piano instead of guitars. Also, the next one, My Hero, is more about piano and again orchestral accompaniment, strings. It's a very, again, lush, almost grandiose sounding track. There's something old-fashioned, almost nostalgic to it. And Kelly Jones here sings about his hero, or at least the poetic I in the song sings about his hero. Of course, one shouldn't make the mistake and always assume that whenever a vocalist uses the word I in lyrics, that those lyrics really are about the singer, or that these lyrics are autobiographical. Even though I could imagine that My Hero has some kind of autobiographic background. Maybe it's about a singer, a musician who influenced Jones. Maybe it's about one of his relatives or somebody he knew from his childhood. And it could even be, that's my theory actually, that he's maybe singing about his father. But I don't know for sure. The lyrics, for example, go, I hear you singing, oh, to hear you singing, songs that made you young when you were winning. You filled a room with life when you were drinking, and then I'd hear you say, I've seen things, things that I hope you will never see ever again. People singing is an image that reoccurs in the lyrics on this album. We also have Sing Little Sister, and somebody singing also again occurs in the final song on the album, Mr. and Mrs. Smith. My Hero again uses a rather simplistic musical motif that is, however, heightened or almost made more dramatic by means of the arrangement. And yeah, there's something, as mentioned, quite grandiose, quite elegant about this track. Yeah, another one that I think is more than solid and quite enjoyable. But that's nothing in comparison to what follows next, track number 8, a song that is simply called Sunny. This one's off to a slow start and then develops into quite surprising directions, at least on Stereophonics' album. The song seems to be, at least that's my interpretation, about maybe a kind of illicit romance, or maybe a young couple that wants to run away, leave the place where they're living. Maybe it's also simply a one-night stand or a brief romantic encounter. Sunny could also be actually maybe the village prostitutes. The lyrics actually are so general that you can read quite a lot into them. Musically, this song stands out from the other ones on this album, at least for me. There are tempo changes, breaks, and there's quite a drive to this song, which ends with a kind of, well, not really epic, but a longer guitar solo from, I guess it's Kelly Jones who's playing here, which also gives the song a kind of more 70s classic rock feel. Very unusual. I haven't heard something like that from Stereophonics. With those those changes in the song. It actually sort of has 3 distinct parts, though of course we're not talking about progressive rock here. It's still a very straightforward rock song, but it works with a few musical surprises and keeps changing. And for me, it is definitely one of the highlights on Keep the Village Alive.
Sunny, so sunny, with no money, it's so funny, who needs money, it's so sunny, and you feel like summer, sunny.
After this almost dramatic rock song, Into the World is more, well, not exactly low-key, but it's an acoustic ballad that is, however, pushed over the cliff maybe a little bit by the strings this time. As much as I like the string arrangements on this album, on Into the World, it doesn't really work for me. Overall, it's a rather somber, a little bit monotonous ballad that asks existential questions with very simple lyrics, but musically not very interesting, and probably, yeah, my least favorite track on this album, which then closes or finishes with Mr. and Mrs. Smith. That is the longest song on the album at almost 7 minutes. Has a bit of a jingly jangly, little folky guitar motif, and is a bit tongue-in-cheek, tells the story of two persons who frequently meet at a hotel under the name Mr. and Mrs. Smith, but of course both of them have different names and are very likely that they are actually married and have this secret affair, living their dreams in this hotel, probably somewhere in maybe in the countryside or in a small town. Actually, quite a fun idea. Also, a bit more of those observant lyrics that Kelly Jones was actually quite good at on the first Stereophonics album. But with a length of, as I've said, almost 7 minutes, I was expecting this song to offer a little bit more in terms of music, or to have maybe an interesting solo, or to come to a climax, a great musical payoff at the end. That doesn't really happen. And so whilst this is an okay track, it becomes a little bit boring in the long run. So I'd say Mr. and Mrs. Smith is very meat and potatoes, and a bit of a missed opportunity to end this album with a really cool, longer closing track. Keep the Village Alive, after all, struck a chord in the UK, also in Ireland. It went to number 14 there, and number 1 in the Scottish album charts, number 1 in the UK overall, which was quite a comeback for Stereophonics there. And though this is sometimes a little bit of a mixed bag and not a great album, I can say with all confidence that this is a good album, and I would even go as far as to say that the Stereophonics haven't made an album as good as this ever since. So if you maybe were a fan of the early Stereophonics albums, but you haven't heard this one, maybe check it out. And also, if you haven't yet seen my Getting Into Stereophonics list, maybe do that next and let me know whether you agree with my selections. Apart from that, thanks for watching and stay tuned for more Murdoch Music Minutes.